Hi guys. So it's going over. There we go. Right, hi guys. So you've probably been seeing the odd updates on Instagram, and I put one on Facebook the other day. Biggest change I've had lately is fitting the new pistons to the con rods. There's basically two ways you can do that, and Renault chose that on the Alpine engines they would do it the easy way with circlips, so the gudgeon pin itself floats between the piston and the con rod, and then circlips just hold them in. On the not sport models, they are a press fit into the con rod, and what that means is that basically to fit them you have to heat the con rod up to in excess of 250 degrees Celsius, and that basically just about expands enough to allow you to put the pin in, and then you put the pin itself in the freezer to shrink that, and you then have the best part of about between 5 and 10 seconds leeway between taking the con rod out of the oven to getting it in the piston and putting the pin in. And the Renault manual itself states using a jig, which I actually ended up replicating because you've got to get the pin in the right position as well as all the way in there, and to do both in 10 seconds or less is a flipping joke if you ask me. But it's actually not only on Renault engines, it is on quite a few different other ones, because I was having a look on YouTube to see if there was any tips and advice I could get on methods for doing it. But yeah, it was quite an interesting task. But I actually ended up making myself a jig that basically looked roughly the same as the way in the manual, and use that to then space out a little bump stop for the gudgeon pin to hit when you just push it in, because you literally have not got a single speck of time. It's literally out the oven, down there, push the pin in, done. Because as soon as it cools down and that gap is taken up, you ain't going to move that pin without about a 4-ton press. I had initially, when I was pressing them out to start with, I was using a 12-ton press at work. Over the Christmas period I had a friend's 4-ton one that I managed to use, and a 4-ton one at full whack of pressure it was moving the pin at about 1 millimetre a time, so it took absolutely ages, but it did give me the opportunity to try, and in the end I actually left them, didn't touch them for about a week I think it was, because I just hadn't got the means to do it. And on Thursday, the first day back at work for me, came home and I actually managed to get both of the last two in exactly where I wanted them to be, because you've got to get them so that the con rod basically sits over the far side of the inside of the piston, and then you push the pin in, but you've got to get it so that the pin stays within certain parameters when the con rod moves side to side. And that's where the fun can be, because if you get the con rod in the wrong position and push the pin into the right position, it just ends up bad and you've got to start again. And you can only push the pin one way on the press, because if you push it the other way you'll basically risk completely distorting the shape of the piston itself. Yeah, they were an absolute pig to do, and an older person who's done it before would probably say, I'll stuff that, just go and get a new set that pre-assembled. But the way I saw it, it was kind of, if I was in a garage back in the day and I said, oh, this is stupid, can we not just replace it with done items, I would probably been told, get on with it, because until you learn to do it you're never going to be able to do it. So therefore I stuck myself at it, I kept going, kept trying it, and basically the key of the game was, you've got to remember one thing: your head has got to be on those pistons only, because if they're anywhere else then you basically use the time that you've got as thinking space that you don't need to be using. So but the main tip I have really is, if you're going to do them, get yourself in the right mindset where you're only thinking about those, because if you're not thinking about those only, then your head can basically occupy the window you've got, and you'll end up stuffing it up, because I did that about 1,000 times. That's a bit of an exaggeration because I only pressed them about 4 times, but yeah, you get the idea. And I'd read on a few forums of other Renault enthusiasts who have actually done the job, and 2 of them had actually ended up damaging the gudgeon pin when they'd tried to press the pin out when it was still hot. So specifically on that accord, I actually waited each time until the pair were completely cold, just so that I could avoid doing exactly that problem, because yeah, I didn't fancy doing it. I'd rather just do it and be able to use all my original bits. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera around, and I'm going to show you the pistons and con rods all assembled, and show you a bit more in detail what it involved. Right, so this is the afternoon's work today, and basically what I've done is I've cleaned up all these are all the main bearing caps, all the bolts that go with the individual cap beside them. Cleaned, rinsed, coated them WD-40, then wrapped them, and basically cling film is almost like vacuum wrapping something, and it's like when you wrap food in it, it preserves it, and basically this preserves these from any effect from the elements, so it stops them getting damp, stops them going rusty, and obviously WD-40 helps against the rust part as well. So right, the pistons, so this is the set of 4 liners and obviously the new pistons that came with them. Inside there you can see that's the piston rings. That one there is actually what's puzzling me a bit, because it's the booklet that came with them says you can't adjust the you shouldn't adjust the rings. But it's rather bizarre because that oil scraper ring is actually overlapping, as you might be able to tell. So yeah, be a bit more have a close look at that at some point. But yeah, this is one of them. Look, basically that indent on that side of the piston, which this side has not got, that is where you put a 21mm deep socket on that sits in that groove, and then the pin itself presses on a basic as a friction fit inside the socket. I'm quite shocked because I didn't scratch the pins by doing it so many times, but somehow I avoided it. I'm not going to complain about it. But basically, you've got about a 5-10 second window in which you can do this, and basically you've got to get the con rod over like that. You then got to push that pin in until it is basically just before that outer little edge there where the straight part inside stops and then becomes this flared out part, and it basically has to be able to go side to side without exceeding too far. So that one is pretty much bang on perfect. An important part actually about having the pistons out like this, see if this will refocus, there we go. When you take things out, always you need to mark them up exactly as they came out, because that's how the engine was built in the first place. So for this one example, when it's sitting on the bench, that's number 1 facing that way with the flywheel to that direction. And because in the manual it shows a number on this opposite side of the con rod, which is how you know which way around to put the new pistons. On genuine pistons, the arrow should face that way, which again points towards the flywheel for number 1. And basically, these being non-genuine pistons, the arrow faces a different way. And luckily, by a bit of luck, when I was talking to one of the Renault firms in the country that do this job, I hadn't actually noticed the fact that the arrow doesn't go the same way, and when they highlighted it I was like, and they personally said that they mark everything up according to what side the oil pump is, for example, and I just said, just what we normally do is we found that the arrow points towards the oil pump when it's all put back together. And when I had a closer look at it, so if that's number 1 like that, sits up like so, which means that the distributor is in front of it and the distributor is directly above the oil pump, so that one there is pointing as it should be, like so. And the other way I could tell was that the indent for the deep socket to sit is on the same side as well. So yeah, but I hadn't actually noticed that until until someone told me without even looking at them, and then I was like, oh yeah, so it is. It is interesting one to find out. But yeah, you might have seen the write-up I've already posted on the Instagram and the Facebook page about the exact method I used to get this lot done. And to say it's quite a technical breakdown is quite an understatement. But at the end of the day, I would definitely say for a fact that it's not a job for the faint-hearted. And if you're not quick on your feet or quick in just being able to physically respond, I don't think I'd recommend it, because I am sort of both of those things and I struggled madly with it. Hence why I think it was that one and that one took so long to do. I think, was it that one? Can't remember which way around it was now. But when I was making the jig, it's one of these two was the first one in, and I got it fractionally. I actually pushed it too far in, but that wasn't bad, because the 4-ton press I was able to use, actually where it was pushing it only a couple of millimeters at a time, I actually managed to press it backwards into exactly the right spot, which was quite handy. And then the other one, I literally just managed to get it right. I have no idea how on earth I did it, but I did. I got it right on the first try, and that was after having the other one as a practice one where I went too far. And the reason I went too far was because the piston, as I pushed against the jig didn't have anything behind it to support it. So as I've pushed the piston, as I pushed the pin in, the pistons sort of dragged along slightly, and jigs moved, and then the pistons ended up fractionally further away it's supposed to be, and the conrod was also not quite in the right place. And then I pushed it all in and was like, I've just gone a bit too far with that, haven't I? So yeah, in fact, I've got a feeling, in fact, that when I did it, the conrod was sort of floating in the middle, and then when you pushed it all the way over to the side, it was pushing, it was that too far out, because the conrod wasn't in the right position when the pin was put in. So that's how it caught me out. But the second one I did on the jig was absolutely perfect. I've no idea how the hell I did it, to be honest with you. So, but yeah, they are a absolute pig to do, and I would, if you really want to give it a try, then absolutely go for it, because at the end of the day, I have managed it. But it involves a lot of quick thinking and quick reacting to do it, from what I've discovered. So yeah, but the basic thing that I found was that you just notice that the battery's just gone a bit low on this phone, so I've just lost the video light. Then I'll use this one instead. But basically, the conrods say go in the oven up in excess of 250. You put the pins in the freezer, and depending on how the pin freely moves in the piston before you put it in the freezer, you can make the judgment whether you put the piston in the oven for about 2 or 3 minutes or so, just to basically warm it through. And that warm up is just expands it by, it's literally fractional expansion, but it's just enough to make that pin go perfectly all the way through without a single bit of, without dragging whatsoever. So, and then once you've got the rod reading a certain temperature, I found that in an enclosed space inside an oven, I was actually managed to, I think, which one it was now, so of 1 or 4, that actually read 299 degrees in an oven that was only able to achieve 250, and I was reading that figure on my laser temperature gun. So yeah, that was the first one I did on that Thursday night, and I never actually managed to get the second one that night up to the same temperature, but as long as it's over 250, then it should work okay. But I say, what I figured out was that with that one that was a lot higher, it seemed, because I'm quite certain that I had sort of a fractional moment of, is that in the right place? And somehow it still hadn't clamped itself to the pin at that point, and I can only guess that it was because it was so hot that it was taking just that extra couple of seconds to cool down and pinch the pin, but I don't know. But either way, I got all 4 done, and you could say I'm quite proud of it. So yeah, they're a right nightmare to do, but when you do them, it is very, very satisfying. That's the best part about really pushing yourself and changing yourself, something like that. So yeah, just need to get all the rings fitted, lubricate them all up, and then I can use the piston ring compressor and put all those in. And I haven't actually I've given these all a quick clean over with some degreaser, because obviously didn't want to put them in the oven and then have all the fumes from burning off oil and stuff in the oven, because yeah, you got to cook food in that thing. You don't want to have all that horrible stuff in there. So it was all given a good clean beforehand, but now it's all ready for re-installation to the engine block itself. I'm going to give each of these, as I have done the big end caps, I'm going to give the whole piston conrod set a complete thorough clean over again, and then probably wrap them up until they go in the liners. But yeah, it's quite a big task, and it is the first time I've ever done it, so do forgive me a little bit if I buffer at times, because it is there's an awful lot to think about, and you know that if you don't do something right and you miss something, it could potentially spell disaster, and within a few seconds of starting it, if you get that far at all, it could all turn to pot very quickly. So you've got to take every precaution you can and do the best job you can while it's in this state of strip down. So yeah, if you haven't done it before, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking. The whole cleanliness part has been quite eating my mind the last few days, because obviously having done the pistons, I'm thinking, right, well, that was all I was waiting for to actually crack on with it. But then I'm looking and think to myself, oh, but I don't want to mess it up, I don't want to get dirty, all that stuff. And in the end, today I was actually coming out to aim and try and get the crankshaft literally just bolted in, and then ended up as, no, I'm just going to stand here and clean everything in every forensic detail I can, because if I've cleaned it all forensically, then it should mean that I've got more peace of mind going on, that I'm not about to install something that's absolutely coated in dirt. You probably won't even be able to see this. Now, you can just about see that surface, but yeah, it is. I've given the whole lot of good Scotch-Brite in really high strength, what's it called, solvent, and then rinsed it all off. And oh, hello, I've actually just managed to unwrap that one. Or have I? No, it's just very, very thin bit of cling film. Okay. But yeah, give it a quick rinse over, and then coated it WD-40, and then wrapped it up. So yeah, fun. And the only problem I have just discovered is that I need to get hold of some of these. You're probably thinking, what the hell are they? Basically, these lines might even be up right way up, you never know. Let's have a look. Ah, there you go. Right, so that little lip there is where the liners mount to the block at the bottom end. And basically, you need to install a gasket similar to what you can see there to seal the liners to the block inside. And basically, the top half is a cooling jacket with the waters being pumped around under pressure, and then the lower half of that is down in the actual crankcase section where all the oil is. So obviously we don't want oil and water mixing for obvious reasons. And basically in the manual it will tell you that you need to trial fit the liners and check the protrusion with the liners and the top face of the block. And basically these come in 3 thicknesses, and the red ones are actually the middle thickness. And basically you have to obviously all being all separate liners, they could all set their own heights, and they've all got to be basically as level as you can get them, and protruding the top of the block face by, say, what is it? I think it's something like 1/4 millimetre. So you basically use these liner seals to make that so you use either the small one, the medium size one, the large one. Now I've got a friend in the both the Classic Car Club and the Owners Club that rebuilt pretty much this engine for his Renault 12 that he restored when he found it in 1985. And I believe at the time he was working in a dealership. I'm not sure quite the details on it, but basically when he rebuilt it, he was told by one of the top mechanics at the time, forget trying to work it out with using the different size seals, put all three together and just squash the lot down, because then you're basically taking up any gap that you can possibly have. Just squash them down by just torque it all down as normal, and then add an extra 1/4 of a turn afterwards, run the engine, let it cool down, and then do another 1/4 of a turn, and basically just squash all three together, and then it's going to be nice and tight, and you shouldn't get any leaks. And his car has never been rebuilt since 85. It's been going all these years since that build, and he still hasn't had a problem with it. So on that ground, I'm following his advice that he's given me on that particular part of the build. And annoyingly, the liners themselves came with one set of red ones, which, as I say, is the middle size, and the gasket set I've got, I can only find again the exact same size ones. So it looks like I've got two sets of the middle size ones. So what I'm going to have to do is go back on the website and order a full set of all three sizes, which is a little bit annoying, but I'm not ready to rebuild it, so I don't really care. But yeah, that was an advice that was given to me by a gentleman, and obviously when they've rebuilt the car X amount of years ago and they've got the experience of having done it and not had any problems with it, you can't really find any fault in following their advice. So yeah, that's why I'm going to follow it and do that. So yeah, it's been quite nerve-wracking to be doing a full engine rebuild, but it's something I've always wanted to do. And although it is quite nerve-wracking and it's sort of pushing the nerves to the boundaries at times, because you really get anxious and think, is it right, is that right, is that wrong, have I done that as it's supposed to be done? It drives you absolutely crazy. I'm not even going to deny it drives you mad. But at the end of the day, when you battle through it and you get on with it and you just take every precaution that makes you feel calm about doing it, like I am at the moment, it's going to be very satisfying to fire it up and hear it run as good as it should do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the day that I fire it up, but at the same time I'm not rushing about to really properly get into it and do it really fast, because at the end of the day, if I do it fast, I'm going to be probably focusing more on it firing up than doing it properly inside, and I'm going to miss something and it's going to go terribly wrong. So that's the way I'm looking at it, and that's the way I'm approaching it. Okay, so here's the engine block. As you can see, it's already been given a very deep thorough clean. I test fitted the camshaft, and there is bushes inside it that you can replace, but the camshaft I'm going with, which is one that actually came out of the Donor 12 engine I was given, I've fitted it in there, and you've got absolutely no play in it at all. So I'm quite happy to go along with that as it is, and not mess around the bushes inside, because I think I'll just be asking for trouble as per usual. So, but yeah, I'm giving this entire thing a really good clean out. Going through the top, sort of around about that area, just there in fact. That's where all the push rods go through to the cam followers, because obviously the camshaft itself is there, and then that is a part on top where they go through. So giving a whole lot of really damn good clean through, and the liner seals that would go right in the bottom of there, because I think it's probably about here the liners sit and seal onto the block. But basically, in fact, there we go, it's an idea. If I show you like that, if we can see much, you can sort of see the outline there of a cylinder. That would be number 2. You can just make out the distance. And basically those edges of holes, you've got to make sure they're nice and clean, so that when you put the liners in with their new seals, everything obviously seals up properly. And that's an important place to focus. And then additionally, when you're cleaning everything up, you really want to make sure that this is obviously the bottom end. If you can, there we are, that's a bit easier to see. So you can see there one of the locators. Yeah, that's for the main bearings there, main caps rather. And basically you just want to make sure that all that's really clean, because obviously you've got an awful lot of oil going through the crank into the crankshaft and out of it again. You want to make sure that everything's nice and clean, because if a bit of dirt is sitting there, it's going to be put through to the big end bearings, it'll be going through to the com rods, going through the gudgeon pins. So basically any dirt anywhere is going to find its way to the wrong place and wind you up. So yeah,